Ever since I first started gardening, I wanted to grow citrus, and now, almost 12 years later, I have 15 different varieties, all producing like crazy. So in this video, we're gonna give you a complete beginner's guide to citrus, no matter where you live, from start to finish. In the world of citrus, there are so many different varieties and crosses, it's actually overwhelming, much too much for a beginner's guide. But to keep it simple, you've got your oranges, like this Valencia orange right here. You have lemons, you have limes, you have grapefruits, and then you have what I'll call specialty. And that's basically anything that isn't one of those. If you want lemons, I have two picks for you. You'll love both. The first is the Meyer lemon, one of the most beloved around the world for its little bit less tart, little less sour flavor, great for desserts. And if you want a more classic lemon, I would go with a Eureka. For oranges, there are really 1,000,001 varieties, but two I really prefer. If you like to juice them, I'd go with a Valencia. It's a classic juicing orange. If you want to eat them straight up out of the garden, the Caracar orange is far and away my favorite. It's sort of a cross between a blood orange and an orange. It's not even really understood exactly how this beautiful orange came to be, but the flavor cannot be beat. For limes, there's one choice that I would recommend, and that would be this one right here. This is the Bear's Lime, 2 S's at the end of that name, named after someone who grew a very prolific lime. This produces so much. I can't even describe it. There's some on the ground right now. I feel a little bad, but we're using them as fast as we can. You can also go with a key lime if you want, but this is one of the most productive I've ever grown. If you are watching this video and you don't like me because I'm talking about citrus and you live in a cold climate, grow this because it's one of the best citrus I've ever eaten. I was just eating one. It is the Owari Satsuma mandarin, or really any mandarin. It's exceptionally cold hardy. It can grow down to, I think, about 15 degrees Fahrenheit, and it peels like a dream. It's probably one of the easiest peeling fruits you'll ever have, and the taste is insane. Holy shit, that's really good actually. When it comes to grapefruits, this is my little grapefruit tree. Used to have a bigger one in this area. This one's called Oro Blanco. There's one called Mellow Gold you can grow, but they're just big ass citrus, and they're super tasty if you like a little bit of a sourness to it. I mean, as a kid, I used to cut these in half, have a little spoon, kind of fish out the pulp, and then have a little sugar with it. It was a really, really great ritual. I'm hoping to get this tree a lot larger so I can do that in the future. And then you just have some of the more wild picks, the specialty citrus, as I'll call them. I've got about 2 or 3 in my garden. This one right here is calamansi. If you're Filipino, you know calamansi. You can use it as a juice. It's exceptionally prolific, and you actually tend to eat the entire thing, rind and all. I don't have one that's quite ripe yet. Then you've got stuff like kumquats, which are absolutely delicious, and then the Japanese yuzu, which is some sort of lemon variant, but is often used for its rind. So you have your citrus varieties that you've picked out. Where are you supposed to put them? No matter what climate you're in, you pretty much want to give them the most sun exposure that you can. So this is north, and I've got a lot of nice southern exposure here. That one yuzu over there doesn't get as much as I might like, but we all make mistakes in the garden. Point being, warm exposure. You don't want to put this in an area that gets shaded out a lot of the day. You don't want to put it down in a bit of a trenched area. If anything, and we'll show you how to plant this in just a second, you're going to want to put it a little bit higher than normal because citrus loves water, but it doesn't like what's called wet feet. It doesn't want its roots constantly sitting in soaking wet water. So citrus wants a lot of sun. It's going to put out a ton of growth. It wants to kind of produce as a shrub. So it wants a lot of sun, but it doesn't want that sun to kind of penetrate and pierce through the canopy. We'll get into how to prune it so that you can achieve that, but we need to figure out how we're actually supposed to plant citrus, whether it's in ground or in a container. Let's talk planting citrus in ground first. It seems scary, but it's actually not that bad. I planted all these about 3 years ago. They're all doing really well. So what we did is not overcomplicate things. We dug a relatively large hole. We popped it out of the container that it came in. We did not do anything to improve the soil. This is important. We didn't throw a ton of compost and fertilizer down in the hole. All we really did was plant it on a bit of a mound. Remember, it does not want to be wet all the time. So sometimes you actually have to plant it up a little bit on a mound so that the drainage falls off of that planting area so it doesn't stay super, super wet. The only other thing when you're planting in ground that I think is very important, in fact, it's important whether you're planting it in ground or containers, all citrus is grafted. What that means is there's a little point down here. In this particular example, it's right around here where below this point you have what's called a rootstock citrus. That is just the roots. And then in this case, with this beautiful Caracar orange, someone went through and grafted the Caracar right here, and it's now growing up here. So what you don't want to do is bury the plant below the graft point, and it's very apparent. That's probably the #1 rule. And after that, you throw some mulch and some compost on, and you're in a really good spot. So now let's talk about how to do it in a container. To grow citrus successfully in containers, you don't need to do too much special, and it's really a great container plant because if you're in a cold climate, you can move that indoors, outdoors, protect it from those freezing temperatures. So I have a 15-gallon pot here. This is a Valencia orange. This is actually gonna be for Jacques on our team. He's been wanting a Valencia orange for a long time. So I'm gonna pot it up for him. So what I have here is a relatively old tree. I mean, with citrus and with all fruit trees, the one thing I'd say is you really do get what you pay for. If I'm paying $50 more for this tree, I'm buying myself years worth of growth. And to me, that is well worth it, but buy what you can afford. So I could certainly just keep this in its plastic pot right here, but whew, that's heavy. If I wanna pick it up and put it into something just a little bit bigger, this is what I would do. So I'm gonna put this to the side. So I wouldn't pot it up too much. That's maybe 20-inch pot. This is probably a 22, 24-inch pot. But what I would do is use a citrus mix. This is pretty important in a container. I would spring for the money to get a citrus mix. Will make the plant do quite a bit better. So you're gonna put a little bit in the bottom. It's just a little bit more of an airy mix. Helps for drainage. Woo. All right, so when you're dealing with a container citrus like this, you wanna take a look at that root ball at the bottom. This looks actually really good. What you don't want to see is a ton of roots kind of circling around. I'm not going to do too much here. I'm really not going to disturb these roots. So what I'm going to do, just lightly scratch this side up, not even that much. And we're going to get the citrus in. That is near perfect on the placement because you want the top of the soil level that was in the pot to be roughly an inch below the soil level, or the lip, excuse me, of the pot you're putting it in. So now I'm just going to backfill. Fun tip, once you think you filled it up, give it a couple cracks on the side of the pot. It'll settle it down and you'll realize there's probably more soil to add. Once you're in, a nice healthy water in, I don't do too much at this point, but the one thing I would do in both situations, whether it's in ground or in containers, is paint the tree. That sounds crazy, but what I do is I use an organic whitewash paint. It's all organic materials. And I will paint the trunk here and I'll paint some of these larger branches to protect them in the earlier stages of their life, because citrus is an evergreen sort of shrubbing plant. And a lot of times in a backyard garden, you do want to grow it more as this shrub instead of this large, tall tree. So it wants to not have a lot of sunlight penetrating that canopy. And early on, it doesn't have a lot of leaves to protect itself. So what we'll do is we kind of paint this up, and it just gives it a little bit of protection, not only from the sun, but also from various pests and diseases. So let's talk watering. Once you've planted your citrus, how do you water and fertilize it for best growth? We're taking this guy. He's a little lonely. He wants to go to the citrus orchard. So here comes Mr. Valencia. But the thing I'll say is in a container, you need to do both more, right? Why? Because it's in a container. It doesn't have as much soil to work with. It will deplete nutrients quicker and it will drain and dry out faster, especially if you put it in something like a terracotta pot. So in a container, I would up the recommendations quite a bit. But if we're talking in ground over here, let's just come on over here. Water-wise, like I've mentioned a few times, does not like what's called wet feet, but does like water. I have mine on irrigation, but it really wants like 30 minutes to an hour worth of water a week or so. And the or so is kind of the gardener's eye. You want to take a look and see how your citrus is responding. In this particular case, I have a bit of a unique setup. My citrus is being watered via irrigation, but I also have what's called a gray water basin that uses my shower water from my outdoor shower and dumps it in here. And my soil is kind of heavy in clay. So you might think, well, isn't that a ton of water in a soil that holds on to water a lot, Kevin? Well, it is. But if you take a look at my citrus, they're doing just fine. And so a lot of this watering and fertilizing is calibration instead of a hard and fast recommendation. But what I will say as far as fertilizer goes is early on in a citrus's life, in the first year or so, they want to be putting out a lot of vegetation. They want to put on structure. So this Valencia it wants more branches. It wants a stronger trunk before it really wants to be putting out a lot of fruit, or before you want it to put out a lot of fruit. So if we go over here to my orchard, what I've done in my earlier years is I used some granular organic nitrogen-based fertilizer to put on a little bit more green growth. And then as the years went on and as the season went on, let's say February, March, May, June, I might switch to a more all-purpose balanced fertilizer. The one thing I will say as far as troubleshooting a fertilizer issue is something called iron deficiency. And what you'll notice, in fact, it's more readily apparent over here, I think. This could be iron, this could be something else, but nevertheless, you'll get this sort of chlorotic look where a bit of yellow starts to show up. There is a nutrient deficiency of some sort going on with this citrus right here. Iron tends to be the most common, and in that case, I might use a liquid fertilizer high in iron to spot treat the citrus if I saw that problem. If there is a pest that's going to hit your citrus, it's probably going to be the citrus leaf miner. What they like are these younger leaves. And when a tree is young, all the leaves are young. So they're really going to target those younger trees that you just put in the ground or in a container. This particular one, this is my bear's lime, this one got smashed by citrus leaf miners for at least 12 months. And look at it, it's completely fine now. Why? Because I pretty much just chilled out. I noticed there was a problem. I did remove some areas that were really impacted by the leaf miner, but for the most part, I knew that when this plant gets older, when a leaf looks a little bit more like this, look at how sort of hard and almost slightly waxy this leaf is compared to this one that I can just pluck off very easily. Like if I tug at this isn't going anywhere. If I tug at this, that just split in half very easily. So the citrus leaf miner says, hey, thanks for this delicate little snack. I'm gonna eat these younger ones. And so it will attack the young ones. It won't kill them all. If it starts to remove some of that tissue so that it doesn't have the ability to do that, and then just wait. You don't have to do a lot of spraying for the leaf miner, in my opinion, because you will get vigorous growth. And as it gets older, they really won't be able to impact it. Now, fortunately, I don't have an example of this next pest, because if I did, my entire orchard would immediately be quarantined. And that would be citrus greening, which is a disease caused by the Asian citrus psyllid, which is pretty much something that has wiped out effectively the citrus production in Florida, where most of the citrus used to be grown. So that's why if you're trying to buy a citrus tree, you'll find it might be very difficult because they won't ship it out and in to certain areas because of this one particular pest. So we're gonna put some resources up on the screen. This is a very serious citrus disease that has an economic impact as well as an impact on your garden. So if you see something like this, please contact these resources. It is super important, but those are really the two you're gonna find the most issue with, in my opinion. So your citrus orchard is in, you got your basics down. Let's talk about pruning and management. This is super important. It really makes or breaks the orchard. So what you need to know, first of all, is my setup is a little different than yours might be. I have 15 citrus trees. I have them planted about 4 feet apart, which is pretty tight spacing. And I keep them relatively short. So I'll explain my goals. Number one, I want a lot of different varieties of citrus. Number two, I don't want to have to fuss and fight to get it. So I want basically a 6 to 8 foot tall citrus eventually. These are only about 3 years old now. And I want them to be relatively compact. And I don't want like 7,000 of a lime and like 7 of an orange. I want a nice even blend of all of them. So I have to prune appropriately. So the first 3 things you want to keep in mind, the 3 Ds, dead, diseased, damaged. You'll never go wrong with a pruning decision if you're removing those 3 categories. Dead tissue, obviously doing nothing for the plant, chop it off. Diseased, if this I felt was really sort of a little too far. Honestly, some of this is just some bad leaves here. I wouldn't be removing this though, but if it was, I might take that off. Or damaged, like if there was a little break point here, it's gonna like try to hang on and try to live, snap it off, and just give the plant a little bit of a rest, allow it to focus its energy elsewhere. But with citrus specifically, what you want to do is keep a nice sort of bushy canopy. You want a little light getting inside, but you don't want it to look like my peach tree right there. That's in flower right now. It's going to be leafing out pretty soon, but you can see by the structure, it's a nice open sort of vase style structure. Citrus really doesn't want that. It wants sort of bushy canopy, much like this lime tree right here. This is actually a very well managed one right here. And you can remove some, like some dappled light can get in there. You can thin this out just a touch, but you don't want to do too much. The only thing you really want to manage with citrus is that top height, So coming through maybe in early spring, late fall or something, depends on when your particular citrus is fruiting or flowering, and just cutting this back down. So what you'll notice is I've sort of level set my entire orchard to about this 4-foot height to allow some of my smaller ones to catch up to some of these ones. And I'm gonna let them all grow up together, and I'll never let them get taller than about here, right? I don't wanna have to reach all the way up to here to grab my citrus. I'm gonna keep it right about here, and I'm gonna keep pruning this back every single year and maintaining this structure. Now, a super important thing when you're growing citrus, like I mentioned, all citrus is grafted. So the rootstock, which is that stuff below the surface, it can have the tendency to throw up what's called a water sprout. It'll say, yo, I wanna grow too, and you don't want to let it do that. So what you'll notice, if you remember that graft point down there, there'll be a grafting point, and anything that comes up from below that graft point is not the same variety as what's above it. So you need to remove that. It's called a water sprout. You'll come through with some snips and just chop that off. That's about everything you need to know about pruning citrus as a beginner. We've been growing citrus for a while now. It's time to harvest. How do you know when you're supposed to do it? So here's a quick rule of thumb based on the type of citrus you're growing. If it's an orange, oranges will turn from green to orange, then they're ready to harvest. So this one is an orange and it's not ready yet because it's nice and green. Lemons will turn from green to yellow, then they're ready. And then limes will turn from green to green for a pure lime, so you won't let it ripen. And then it'll get to yellow for a little bit of a sweeter lime, a little bit less sourness, but that's not the full story because it depends on the variety that you're growing. If you're growing a Valencia orange, we'll put the map up right here. There is a window in which it is typically ripe. So if you combine the look of it with the timing it's supposed to be ripe, with what I'm going to show you next, which would be the feel of it, that's how you know it's time to harvest. Because it's important to know with citrus, they do not ripen off of the tree. You have to pick them when they're ripe on the tree, and then they'll be good to go. If you pick it too early, it's not just going to like magically ripen like a tomato would. So let's take a look at my Valencia here. They pretty much look orange to me. You want to give them a little bit of a feel. And they should feel a bit juicy, like they should have a little bit of give to them. So these are honestly not quite there yet, if I'm being totally transparent. I really wish that they were. Another thing you can do is a light tug test. You don't want to do a crazy rip on this, but you can give it a light tug. It really should pop off with not too much effort. So unfortunately, my Valencias aren't quite ready, but let's take a look at my lime. This is my Bear's lime. So already I know this is good to go. Why? Because these are like a mixture of green and yellow. And if I was to take, one like this and pop it, that came off without really damaging the plant. Now, I don't necessarily recommend just ripping it off. You can get some snips and cut them off, but if they're ripe and ready, they should be good to go. Like that one just flopped right off. So that is absolutely perfect. And then you have stuff like your Satsuma, which I showed you earlier. This one here is definitely ready. Not only have I been eating this for a while and I know, but let's just take a look at this. Watch when I pull this off right here. Come on now. That's so ready, it left some of itself behind, and it's got that kind of juicy vibe to it. And of course, Satsumas being very easy to peel, they are just probably one of the most pleasurable oranges to eat. So citrus is one of the most rewarding fruits you can grow. This was a beginner's overview. We have a few more videos in our citrus playlist with many more to come, so make sure to subscribe. Good luck in the garden, and keep on growing.